Welcome, everyone. We are live. We are back. I hope everyone had an amazing holiday season with you and yours. We are off and cranking to kick off this year, 2022, to be hopefully the best year yet for you. So excited to have my partners in crime today for TimTalks, a guy that I've got to know very well and a group that I know very well. Just had the pleasure to meet Paul here just a few minutes ago, and just excited to have them on because there's so much that's going on in the world today. And we're going to be talking about a new topic. We're going to be talking about not a new topic, but I talk to a lot of dealers and GLBA. What is GLBA, and is your dealership compliant to the new regulations of GLBA? Unfortunately, today in today's world, it is no longer love thy neighbor, but it is sue thy neighbor. So you want to make sure that your dealership, your business, listen, I'm talking to companies like ours, CarNow. I'm talking to vendor friends and partners in the automotive space to make sure that your foot is on a rock with your dealership. That being said, let me introduce John Acosta first. John, I got to know through Clubhouse. He spent some time here at the Unconference back in September. And as I talked to dealer after dealer after dealer, in my opinion, one of the, quite frankly, the best IT and securities, dealership securities professionals in the space. John is the CEO of VTech. He's also the host of Dealer Tech Podcast. We also have today Paul Jensen. Paul is with the Qvale Group and is the operations manager. He handles all things that are pretty important to the group. We have a good friend down there, Gino Walsh, as well. Paul has 30 years of experience, used to work for Pepsi and Ford, and it's his job to make sure his dealership, the Qvale Group, their foot is on a rock. Gentlemen, welcome to TimTalks, and thank you so much, because I know there's a lot of questions about this, and just thank you, first of all, for your time today.
Thank you.
Great to be here, Tim.
Yeah, man, let's just dive right into it. John, let's start with a simple question. What is GLBA? And after that brief history, why should dealers be concerned? Why should companies be concerned? I think you said they have until December to make these changes. We're a Martian. We just landed on Earth. Explain it to us that way, if you don't mind.
Right. So thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. So the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act was implemented in 1999 to provide safeguards for personal identifiable information for customers for financial institutions. And that traditionally focused on banks, lending institutions, and other industries that were kind of in that world, right? So in 2000, I would say 2019, and then 2021 and in 2020 and 2021, there was these upgrades or updates to the ruling, and it included dealerships, specifically named dealerships, as financial institutions. So the rule went into effect, or there was a final ruling October 22nd of 21. And they said, you guys as dealerships, as financial institutions, have a year to put in these pretty, heavy and structured compliance rules into the dealer space, right? And make sure that they're compliant by December of 22. So they have about 12 months or a little bit over 12 months to get compliant and make sure that they have the safeguards in place to protect customer information.
So what if, obviously you have multiple conversations with dealers all over the country. What are some basics for people that are just hearing of this the first time? And again, I know there's a lot of CFOs out there that this is their, but for the normal, for the GMs and maybe somebody's hearing this for the first time, what are some things that they need to do to make sure that they're preparing for this?
I would say number one is not to put your head in the sand, right? Is not to do the ostrich, is to put your arms around this. This is coming down the pipe. It's pretty big. It's a fundamental change in how business is going to happen. And then define PII, right? Is like, I've heard of a lot of dealers like, well, we don't deal with any PII. And the reality is like anything that is a person's name, address, email, phone number, social security number. I mean, it's not just social security number. Everybody's like, oh, social security number is that can identify the person. But the FTC regulates or defines PII as anything that a person can be identified as, right? So that really broadens the scope of what this regulation is.
Paul, let's jump to you. You know, you guys said something that you know, I ironically would have been talking about for a week with our team as we're making some changes. You know, to make sure to what we say, put your foot on a rock. You know, how does your organization, because I've heard about some of the steps that you have done, but just maybe share with the people, it's not trade secrets, to make sure that we come together as an automotive community to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. But what are some of the things that you have done to run your organization to where you're constantly ready for these types of changes? You know, you also said, which I think, by the way, you need to write a book. How do you, to use your words, moneyball your dealership?
Well, from a compliance standpoint, we're trying always to be ahead of the game. You have a lot of dealerships that don't pay attention to their infrastructure, but we're constantly looking at making sure that, one, we have good security practices in place. Two, that we have the right processes in place. We're very process oriented on getting things put into place. And we do a lot of reporting. We look for the best way to report information that we get, and then we hold our people accountable to that. So that's where your Moneyball comes in, where it's people, process, and pay plans. So if you log those things together, then you have a process, you get good people, and you put a pay plan in place that reinforces the behaviors that you're looking for. So that's the Moneyball side of this. In terms of GLBA, I started out with just getting a white paper from John on here's what's coming down the pike. And it was it's an eye opener with all of the things that we have to do. I started out with an outline. Here are the things that we need to do, 1, 2, 3. And I'm constantly now going back to my vendors, going to John, going to my banks to get their privacy things in line, make sure that we've got all our privacy things in line. We have it documented, written, and follow up on it just to make sure that we've got everything in place. There's a lot of outside things that need to take place. You have to have outside testing of your systems. You have to have independent kind of reporting done to document what you're doing. And all of that, if you get caught or if you have a problem and you're outside of the timeline when you're supposed to have it in play, and you have a breach or you have a problem, the fines are fairly stiff. They start at $45,000 an incident up just on a GLBA fine, and then if you get caught in a class action suit, can cost you millions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that got some people's attention right there, starting at $45,000, ladies and gentlemen, and going up. You know, I think, back to the Sue Thy Neighbor again, when the ADA, really made the changes to dealers' website, I don't want to say the same thing because it is different. Very important that the Disabilities Act and people can shop and on your website, but there was several. I heard, unfortunately, of lawsuits that your website is not ADA compliant, and we went through that run. I'm curious because you talked about vendors. How should an organization assess their exposure and readiness for GLBA?
Well, it's going to come down to one, that you have all of the right security things in place on our side, and that we've got all of the email dual factor authentication, all of the network security, all of the firewall security, having your firewalls monitored, having an outside operations center that monitors this stuff and can trigger when you have a problem. those are the things you have to basically start with. There has to be only one person in charge of this program for the dealership, so that you don't have two people working in two different directions trying to put this together. I'm going back to all my finance institutions and asking them, what's your security policy, and incorporating that into my documentation, so that if they have a breach, I've already assessed what our things are. Any place that we're taking information in, I have to have two-factor authentication. I've got to make sure that paper records are documented and locked up at a dealership level. If somebody walks out of an F&I office, they got to lock the door. They've got service people in the back. Service repair orders have names, addresses, phone numbers on them, email addresses. That's all PII. All has to be secured and kept. Yeah. I've got 5,000 boxes of records off-site that I have to manage, and you have to have a timely destruction of documents outside of what the law is, so that stuff is destroyed, shredded, and you get a shred document back on that. So it's a whole program, and you've got to have it all incorporated all the way down the line in order to be compliant. And you're still, should something happen, you have to have a response plan. What do you do? How do you report? Who do you go to? All of that's incorporated in this. Basically, we're going to get treated like a bank.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Yeah, go ahead, John.
No, what Paul hits a great point. It's I was talking to some guys that have a lot of experience in auditing and compliance, and they look at personal identifiable information as toxic waste. It's like that, just that simple concept of looking at something from that perspective is like, what do you do with toxic waste? You get rid of it as fast or as safely as possible, in the shortest amount of time, right? So if you're a dealership, and we've walked into many buy sells, Paul and I, to do these assessments, and you see years and years and years of just service records lying around that are maybe 20 years old, and maybe by state law you only have to keep that for 7. So looking at it from that perspective is huge. And the second part is, if you have an information security program, or have the bones for an information security program, auditors will look at you, and this is not legal advice by any means, but they'll look at you saying, okay, there's something in place, rather than if there's an incident that happens and auditors come in, you be completely, blank stare of anything that's happening. So like you said, having your foot on a rock with this is just, putting the program together and starting to implement those things is a huge step in the right direction.
Some of the things that just as a start, the first words out of my mouth to a dealer would be, are all your PCs Windows 10 and above? Yeah. Are you still running any legacy devices? If you are, you're not compliant, because you can't do security updates on those. Yep. Are you using two-factor authentication for your people getting onto the computers? That's a requirement. Do you have firewalls? Are your Wi-Fi networks secured and segmented, so that customers can't get from one side to the other on a Wi-Fi network? If you're using a Netgear wireless router and you got 7 of them around the place and everybody's logging in, none of that's secure. None of that creates the segmentation that you need to keep your data set segmented away from where anybody can get at it.
Wow, Paul. Thank you. That's just a step by step. Those are simple things that a lot of people can do. That we can go into any dealership and ask these questions on how we're handling this. The good thing is, a lot of the PII inside the store, there's not a lot of dealership. Maybe there is, and I'm just ignorant of it. Still taking the old handwritten credit app. I can remember people walking by and leaving, old handwritten credit apps on desks and unlocked drawers, and it's just laying out there for everybody to see. And I think, depending on the part of the country that you're in, this is something, and look, this is not, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, but these are things that you have with the lawsuits, with the TCPA Act, with even in our world, with communication and texting and other things. The lawsuits, the $1,500 per line texted, these are all things that we have to stay ahead of, and we have to continue to put our foot on a rock and make sure that we are compliant. So that dealer that doesn't have John Acosta. By the way, John will be speaking. I wanted to mention this in the beginning, and my camera is flickering in and out. I apologize for that. But John will be speaking at the upcoming Digital Dealer. I believe the first one is in Tampa. And don't miss that. If you're going to Digital Dealer, John is a great communicator, A, and B, will be talking about secure your dealership. So he will be live to where you can ask any questions that you want to him. And just so you know, if you do want to ask, a question, now please feel free to type in that question, as we will try to get it answered live. So if this is all new, and again, it's been a crazy year and a half. It's been the most profitable. The great thing is it's been the most profitable time in automotive history. And
really.
Can you hear? Did cut out?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of things, people are thinking about that, and this may be falling through the crack. Let's talk to that dealer principal, that general manager that doesn't have a John. And by the way, you can have a John, because John is with VTech Auto, so you can reach out to him. We're going to drop that in a link on the CarNow page, as well as the TimTalks page, to where you can get a hold of John. But if somebody doesn't have John, where do they start? Where do they start to make sure that their dealership is compliant? Because GLBA came out in 1999 under Bill Clinton, if I'm not mistaken, and they've made some revisions. So with technology and everything, can we talk about the revisions that they've made to GLBA? Is there some things that have stood out to either one of you guys that you need to make sure that, obviously with Qvale Group, Paul, and then John, obviously you work with other groups, that stands out? I mean, where does someone start?
I mean, I would, my first thought would be just to pivot a little bit from the organization and understand technology, that technology can be a force of leverage, right? That you can really empower the organization through the use of technology, not it be a hindrance of how you're doing business. And I think that's one of the biggest things that Qvale has done, is that they've leveraged, not just, our security platform, but communication platform. Qvale on a regular basis uses Teams as a communication platform, Microsoft Teams, to communicate every day of the week throughout the whole organization. And you can quickly pivot and have direct communication with your, top down organization, or even bottom up organization, through a Teams application, right? So they host 15 minute meetings every week with every department and have that conversation. So it's like looking at the organization from a different perspective and saying, how can I leverage technology to be able to be leaner, faster, more efficient, and super redundant? Keep the technology simple and super redundant for the organization. And that's what we've done. We've cut out a lot of fat for the organization, things that are bloated, demystified what this black hole of IT is. And Paul's a testament. Paul and really Gino are a testament to this. They've leaned into technology and say, how can I work this to make organization better, not shied away from it. So I think just doing that and just understanding it would be a huge step in the right direction.
Awesome. So, by the way, I just switched it, so we should be good now, guys. I'm just fascinated about the ever moving target that is our dealerships. I mean, it's unfortunate that there are people that their sole job is to, come after the big bad dealer, and to, do whatever they can to put together a lawsuit, or, as even Paul said, a class action lawsuit. So what are some things, as we start to land the plane a little bit, that you want to make sure that dealers know going into this? And maybe you want to go into into something else other than GLBA, because I want to really touch on a few things. Paul, when you talk about moneyballing your dealership, it's not just GLBA.
It really doesn't have a lot to do with GLBA.
Right.
The GLBA is a side thing.
Yeah, 100%. So what are some of those?
So, like on the Moneyball thing, we leverage our technology. We've implemented processes in our service department where customers can come in, they get written up, it gets a video, it gets an MPI. we comes back. The platform that we're using, Update Promise, tracks all of that and has really deep reporting. What kind of upsells are we getting? Where are they taking place? So that we can hone in. And we've actually tied the pay plans of our service writers to utilization of the tool. They get paid on what they sell and what they do, but about 25% of their pay comes from utilization of the tool. If they don't utilize the tools, they miss that bonus.
So you talk about, and I've heard good things about Update Promise. Just so, and I know they're not a huge. So talk about, when you say Update Promise, people don't know about Update Promise. I'm all about getting good tech out to dealers that isn't named CarNow. That's what TimTalks is about: serving dealers. So Update Promise is a service tool. When you talk about people have to use the tool, maybe unpack that a little bit.
So Update Promise is it's kind of like X-Time. It allows you to set your appointments online, take appointments, put them into the system. It interfaces with our DMS, which is CDK. It has two-way push with them so that you can use a tablet in the lane, write up a customer, and then follow the process right through to a payment where you text through it, you communicate with your customers through it. It's very robust. And, I'm kind of a best in show kind of guy when it comes to software packages that we use.
Sure.
I've been involved with a lot of them. Nobody does it all. I can tell you that. Right. Whether it's the DMS or it's your outside services, but we've kind of honed in on the sales side using our CRM dealer socket to track the tasks. It's task oriented. The more tasks you get done, the more activities that you're doing creates more leads, creates more appointments, creates more car sales, because it's the funnel where it comes in. And then we use a very robust, it's not a one price, one touch on the car sales side, but we try and minimize the amount of interaction that you have to have. It's all tablet based. It's very transparent to the client. We recommend things that it's not like you're sitting in the box in an F&I office and you got the F&I guy just banging on you. We suggest things based on an interview that we've done with you that would benefit you during the long process of owning the car. And all of those things come down to make it a very transparent. And all of that for us equates to better CSI. So you have happier customers, you get better performance out of your people. The store, it's good for the store. It's good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more and more dealerships we go in as we continue to always try to get better, that is the constant. When you make it easier, quite frankly, when you take the walls down in front of customers, they respond accordingly. John, I'm going to let you have. I really want to hear from you on some other things. Obviously, you've got many dealer clients. What are some of the things, again, other than GLBA? Kind of give us a summary, and let's just say I'm a brand new general manager, maybe a brand new dealer principal, and I just got my store. I've been trying for 20 years to get a store. I just got a store, and we hear about it all the time. And then that one lawsuit or that one, whatever that is. So if you could give us just a few things that you see on a whatever it is, weekly or monthly basis, that you could give us maybe a step 1, 2, 3 to make sure your foot's on a rock, not only with GLBA but others, to be secure. Could you help us there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say 3 points on that. Point number 1 is multi-factor authentication. Point number 2 is multi-factor authentication. I guess you guys could guess the third one. Point number 3, multi-factor authentication. That's where this is happening on a regular basis, right? Bob is in accounting. He's not super computer savvy, gets an email from a phishing site, and boom, they're in the system. Ransomware happens, and it's game over. So, I mean, I would say just putting those things in and really run towards the dark hole of IT, because it's full of benefits and leverage and exponential growth out of it. I know Qvale has done a lot of movement over the years that we've been with them, And I think, Paul, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but they've leveraged us correctly to say, let's, with a small team, leverage these guys to do some big moves. So I think partnering with somebody, and we're not the only company out there, there's great companies out there that do this, is partner with somebody that really understands your business. That's not, I do all things IT. It's just be dealership IT specific, and you can really run towards that, understand the technology, understand it from your dealer principal head or perspective, and then leverage those things with a partner like us, right?
Some of this stuff doesn't come cheap. Some of this stuff, and you have to have from the top down, have to have the buy-in that we're going to do it the right way. Do the next right thing. Do whatever it takes to make yourself secure. You're not, a lot of the publics do it. They have to be compliant. They're public. It's the mom and pops that have a service writer that was good with computers, that's, he's kind of overtaken and he's watching what's going on, and the dealer doesn't want to invest in the infrastructure to get this done. I'm blessed with an owner that says, do it the right way, get us the best price, do it the best you can, but keep me covered.
Mm-hmm. It's right. It's
we got sued in a class action for robocalling, and we had to prove that, one, we don't robocall, and two, that customer doesn't exist in any of our databases. So didn't come from us. It still had to defend the case.
Unbelievable. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, I know you're listening. I know this is going to get sent on a couple of different social media platforms. Make sure your foot is on a rock. Make sure you look at it, to steal Paul's line, as Moneyball, because this is things. I mean, I opened up by saying it's not love thy neighbor anymore. Unfortunately, it's sue thy neighbor. And Paul just literally said, we got a class action suit for robocalling for a customer that wasn't even in our database. It can happen. Make sure that your foot is on a rock. I'm going to brag on John. Look, this is not a platform we never talk about really our own business here. We talk about serving dealers, but I got to tell you, John and I had the privilege to tour a dealership here in Atlanta during a small conference that we had from a bunch of people from Clubhouse back in September. And, he walked by the computer room, and there was where all the servers were, and a server was just tilted ever so slightly in the wrong way. And he almost lost his mind. Like, you talk about somebody that is passionate about this stuff and passionate about securing your dealership. We're going to look, we don't do this often, but we are going to drop his information on our CarNow page, because I truly do. In fact, I don't know that we've ever done this other than some social help stuff, but I really believe in what John is doing, and he does care about dealerships, and he's passionate about it. So we are going to do that for you. And do not miss, if you're going to Digital Dealer in Tampa, John will be speaking, talking about secure your dealership. If you have questions and you did not have the opportunity, or maybe you were just shy and you did not want to ask, please, send that in to us, and we will make sure that it gets handled for you. John and Paul, I'll let you go first, and then John, you'll close it out for us. And any final thoughts?
Just, I'd make sure that if you're in a dealership and you don't have a plan, get one, because it's coming down the pike, and it's very intense, and there's a lot to it. So just pay attention.
Awesome. Thank you. John, land the plane, brother.
The last thought is like, this is a marathon. Compliance is a marathon. Is like, where do you want to be in December, at mile 1 or at mile 20, to be able to finish that line? Nobody in the United States right now, I don't think, is even necessarily close to compliance, but they're at compliance, but they can be very close. So I think Qvale's leveraged that correctly, and a couple things can get into place, and everybody's, to quote you, Tim, have their foot on a rock to be able to land safely in December.
By the way, people take my stuff all the time from talk. So I got foot on a rock. I work for the amazing Hennessy organization here in Atlanta, and Mr. Devers Hayes would always say, boys, you got to make sure your foot's on the rock. So I need to give credit where credit's due. I got that from Mr. Hayes. Brilliant man. Guys, thank you so much. In fact, John, if there's an article or if there's a step-by-step, we're going to post that on the TimTalks link on our website, as well as the CarNow page, because that's where we have, if you have any questions. So if there's anything, plus your other podcast, when you talked about this, our job, we talk about it all the time, is to serve our dealers, whether you're even a partner with us or not, serving you, getting you better. And that's what we want to do as we go in. And in December, we'll be here before you know it. Paul, thank you so much. John, thank you so much for the time. I know you guys are so busy. As we always say at TimTalks, listen, especially this old Kentucky boy, no one is smarter than everyone. And let's just continue to get better together. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.